Okay, Mayor Osborne, thank you for being with us. Um, Before you were mayor the last 2 years, you were a council member, and your calendar is a council member as well. And each position is one of 5 votes on important issues. There have been many in Lompoc that we'll talk about. Beyond making those big decisions, how do you describe the responsibilities of being mayor, and why are you the right person for the job?
First, thank you, Scott, for the opportunity to speak to the community of Lompoc about my campaign. You are correct that we only each have 1 vote. The mayor's role is that of chair of the meetings and spokesperson for the community. It has been an interesting time the past 2 years. With the added complication of a pandemic and trying to, manage that messaging and support for my community at all different levels. So to your question, I am confident I'm the right person for the job and to continue the job because of the relationships that I've built in my time on council and as mayor that are important to us to come out of the pandemic. We cannot function as a city in isolation. We need to have partnerships with the county, the state, and the federal government to advocate for what we need as a community to rebuild as we recover our economy. We have some exciting possibilities in partnership with Vandenberg Air Force Base and REACH and the regional economy. So that's, the federal government and the state government partnerships. And the last part of that is, being chair of the meeting, understanding how a city council functions, understanding the rules that we follow that are there for the public to have a representative voice and see a fair and unbiased discussion about the issues. So it's really important to understand what those 2 roles are and to be able to do them appropriately and fairly for the community at large and be that spokesperson and be the chair that moves a meeting forward in a fair and judicious way.
When you get out and speak with voters, what topics do they bring up to you the most, and what's your plan to address it?
So there's a couple of things that are ongoing discussion. Number 1, given the past 2 years in Lompoc, is public safety. Do we have the resources and the ability to keep our community safe? The fact that some individuals don't feel safe in their community because we've had a shortage of law enforcement officers, that their equipment is outdated or non-existent, that we've lost officers to other communities because of competitive pay. So that is a high priority. And to address that, we did put a sales tax measure on the ballot. And I want to thank everyone for supporting that. Hopefully we can see the savings be utilized in a way that supports public safety. There will be some difficulty with accessing it immediately simply because council majority chose to aggressively pay down the long-term liability and didn't leave much wiggle room for current councils to utilize some of those funds for immediate needs. But I'm confident we can find ways to fund what we need to through the cost savings that we're experiencing through that reset. The other important message I hear is quality of life and how that's being impacted for our at-risk youth, for the homeless population in our community, for those who want to get out and use our parks but feel they need to be improved and are safer. So again, it's how do we partner with the agencies addressing this, because again, a lot of the homeless issues are mental health or they are housing issues, and those aren't necessarily something Lompoc can solve in a vacuum. There are organizations and the county is responsible for some of these areas. So we need to work with them to identify those paths and help implement the programs locally with their support to address them. At-risk youth is a huge concern for me. That goes back to the public safety aspect. We need to have ongoing partnerships with many of the local organizations that are already addressing this. And in the time of pandemic, when we aren't able to gather, we need to figure out ways to provide opportunities for the kids in our community to connect with supportive services and outlets. So it's my goal to continue those relationships and identify some novel ways to address that with the pandemic and with school being out.
On your campaign page, you wrote that Lompoc is stagnating. So what will it take for the city to progress and prosper?
So for my vision of a prosperous community, we need to start investing in ourselves. We have had several years of very tight budgets and budget reductions. And instead of investing in ourselves and investing in our infrastructure and providing the tools to the community that change economic recovery and allow it to happen. So we need to address our broadband. It is currently a digital divide between those in our community who are able to afford and buy more bandwidth while they're working from home or schooling from home. But for those in our community who don't have the luxury of purchasing that, we really need to invest in a municipal broadband that would not only provide less expensive access to internet and education from home, but it would also be a game changer for local business attraction of having a competitor to someplace like Comcast for high-speed internet. Another area we need to invest in ourselves is our parks. Our parks are amazing. We have a huge number of them for such a small town and a small square footage, but we've not invested in a way that has maintained them like they were 20 years ago when I first moved here. And so in the time of COVID, we know that getting outside and getting your vitamin D and exercising and losing weight are all very important, but we need to be able to have the staff to maintain them. We need to invest in equipment that is safe and easily cleanable so that our community can do those things and do it with confidence. There are a number of other concepts and ideas that I would be very excited to bring forward in the next 2 years, especially if we have a council majority that understands that we need a vision and we need a unified plan to move forward and really invest in ourselves. So I look forward to that opportunity to bring Lompoc forward in a way that is not stagnant and is, taking advantage of all these opportunities in front of us, such as Vandenberg Air Force Base, building out a space complex, launch complex.
You pushed for that 1% sales tax increase that the voters approved in March. And you're talking about some added benefits that Lompoc could maybe reap from it, but the debate has been about whether or not to pay down the debt from CalPERS, which is what the council voted to do. Now we have COVID-19, which I'm sure you can address is affecting the bottom line of the city budget. So, how do you move forward with kind of some bigger ideas while still dealing with CalPERS debt and also losses that the city has incurred from COVID?
So I think that is a very important question, and I have been discussing that with our different partners and different entities in the community about how we can move forward. So part of investing in our community is finding those important partnerships where we can provide something that we ourselves as a full service city might have, such as our infrastructure and access to it, to a partner who maybe will come in and build out that internet infrastructure because of the fact that we can provide access to the infrastructure we already own. And so that public-private partnership is something we need to take more advantage of, which is why it's so important to build those relationships and those connections and continue to have those kinds of discussions. To also address issues such as the impact on our budget and the sales tax and how it has currently been set aside to pay down the unfunded liability for the next 15 years, pivoting to the fact that we are a full service city. We are also the third largest community in Santa Barbara County and the most reasonable cost of living, we have a large population that is still working. So while we weren't on a aggressive return of the economy after the 2008-2009 economic downturn like surrounding communities, Lompoc was pretty stable. And so we still have many in our community that are working, that are shopping, that are participating in our community. And so our sales tax hasn't fallen much. It's fallen, but it's not as much as it could be because we haven't been totally dependent on, say, tourism tax or a very large sales tax amount because of big stores. So that's to our advantage. At the same time, we do have quite a few members of our community that have lost their jobs and are impacted because they were in the service industry or the wine industry or the hotel industry, and those jobs were cut back or lost. And so that's the partnership with the federal government and the state government to advocate for the kind of funding they're proposing for assisting those that have lost their jobs and are potentially concerned about losing their house. So how do they access those funds, and how are we being given those funds, distributed those funds, so that we can make sure the community has access to it? So Lompoc's an interesting microcosm of what I think many cities are experiencing across the U.S. So we will need to take a council that is willing to have these tough discussions and reach out and identify those partners and, you know, look to invest in ourselves wisely so that we open the door for not just continuing and surviving, but growing and improving and making sure those that are experiencing the difficulties that the pandemic have created have an opportunity to come out of it.
Lompoc has embraced the cannabis industry on the retail side really more than any other city in our area. I believe there's 7 dispensaries that are now open. How has the money from that helped Lompoc? And do you see it as total positive at this point? And how do you see the future of the industry in the city?
So I believe it's actually 10 dispensaries at this point. And, you know, I think that the positive side for it has been because we gave a reasonable tax measure to the public to vote in favor of, it has been beneficial during the pandemic and helped us stabilize our budget because we do have the number of dispensaries and they are still open, considered essential, and paying that tax. So it has been beneficial. I think the other part that a lot of the community isn't paying attention to, because it's not, you know, on the streets and you drive by it and recognize it, is the manufacturing and the testing and the distribution facilities that are being built here as well. And those are providing much needed jobs that are wage earning jobs that pay great benefits. And a lot of the surrounding farms also have begun to grow cannabis and are providing a stable work environment that normally is seasonal, maybe with wine or strawberries, but is something that can provide a living wage. So I thank the industry for investing in Lompoc and providing these opportunities. I think the next part we need to look at to be responsible for having this industry in our community is to make sure that we have an oversight and auditing committee locally. So we need to hire the appropriate staff, the appropriate combination between law enforcement and auditing in the financial department, and maybe some oversight from building or code enforcement to make sure that these organizations, whether it's a dispensary or a processing facility or a distribution facility, are following the rules, because the state does not have enough staff at the BTC to be providing that oversight locally. So it is really important for us to provide that next step. Now that we've collected the revenue, we know how much additional revenue we have, we should be setting some aside and building a team that assists those that are following the rules to maintain and be appreciated for doing that. And for those that are slipping or maybe are unaware that they have, helping them maintain conformance and make sure the industry has a positive impact on our community and not a potential burden because of failing to follow the rules.
The riverbed cleanup was something that happened early on in your tenure as mayor, I believe. It's something that was costly, over $500,000 in total, I believe. And you've had to go back and address the issue again as a council. Where does that stand now? Is that something that is going to be an ongoing situation, or do you see any longer term solutions in the cards?
So first, we needed to address the riverbed cleanup, not from the homeless aspect, but from the health and human safety aspect, given we had a lot of hazmat material, as a polite way to put it, build up in the riverbed, as well as trash. And shortly after the cleanup was completed, we did have a major rain in January, and it flooded the riverbed to within a few inches. So we avoided having human waste flow into our water source, or trash build up at different places, causing a dam environment, and saved lives for some of the individuals that were living in the riverbed and might not have woken up during a flash flood. So it was important to do from that aspect. As mayor, I advocated for continuing to fund oversight and maintenance of that. It was not approved in the 1921 budget, and so as a result, we have not maintained oversight of that and have not made sure that the cleanup was ongoing and successful. And it has also been a downfall for those that we assisted in getting housed and moving into a better environment than living in the riverbed, because many have returned because we weren't able to provide that sort of wraparound support service to monitor and support them in the positions we'd assisted them into. And so that disappoints me, in that we've had the trash return, we have individuals returning to the riverbed, and it's an unsafe environment. So I think it's really important that this next cycle we work to identify and fund, unfortunately, another cleanup, and work in partnership with the county and other organizations to make an ongoing plan to address the issue. I don't see homelessness being solved. There are going to always be individuals who don't want to live in the normal lifestyle that the rest of us choose, or have a psychological issue that prevents them, such as PTSD. And so what I'd like to do is work and identify ways to assist those individuals in the kind of lifestyle that they prefer, but isn't a burden on the community or themselves, and does get them the health and the mental wellness and the assistance they need to live a safe life. So it's complicated. It's not an easy thing to address, but having been a member of Home for Good for several years, and prior to that C3H, I've come to learn a lot about the homeless community and want to support it and address the issues, because it not only impacts those residents in my community, but it in fact impacts those that are homeless themselves, and is a burden on our hospital, a burden on public safety, to always be responding in an emergency response rather than relationships that are ongoing, and help them get the kind of assistance they need to live a better life.
Okay, lastly, do you have two issues that maybe you'd want to raise that we haven't talked about?
You've done a good job of hitting all of the highlights of our community, so thank you for doing your homework and recognizing the issues in our community. I think for me, we still need to be positive about ourselves. Lompoc has a long history of being a pioneering community and reaching for the stars with Vandenberg Air Force Base. And so we need to take pride in our community, take pride in its uniqueness. And I really want to continue to encourage all of our residents to identify something they love about Lompoc. I truly love this community. I have lived enough other places to compare it to, and really am passionate about how unique it is and how special it is, and just want everyone to feel that way about their hometown, or their adopted town is my case. The other part that I think we need to focus on is how do we, as a community, recognize and understand how our local government is structured, what it is capable of and isn't capable of, and really embrace that issues that need to be addressed and can be addressed at a local level are the best and only way you're going to see results. So I really want the community, despite COVID and despite not being able to come to a council meeting, to engage. Tune in to TAP TV and KPEG, call in, look to the website at the agendas and the meetings, write letters, write emails, really connect and get involved, because this is where you directly affect change, is in local government. And I think we need to do a better job of making sure we encourage and welcome anybody and everybody in the community to participate in their local government.
Okay, Mayor, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Scott.